Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, sorry for the noise, got the window open, and welcome to my Spider-Man film ranking. This will be ranking all the solo Spider-Man films from 2002 to 2017, so we will not be counting Captain America Civil War, but I'll say where I would put it on the ranking at the end. I will also say where I'd put the Spider-Man 2.1 on the ranking at the end as well. But for this list, we're just doing the theatrical cut of Spider-Man 2, as well as Spider-Man from 2002, Spider-Man 2 from 2004, we got Spider-Man 3 from 2007, The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014, and Spider-Man Homecoming, the first MCU solo Spidey film from 2017, which at time of recording, I've just reviewed. Hi, Nick on a different day. I forgot to list the films when I did it. I was about to and then I didn't, because I just showed you the Blu-rays. So I thought, I'll just do the ranking. But I decided to list the films. So here we go. I tried to do it already, but I didn't seem to have recorded it. But I did record something a little afterwards instead by accident, which I will use a little bit in a second. So the films I've got are Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 also includes the 2.1 version on this particular Blu-ray. I'm not sure if the re-release does. Spider-Man 3. The Amazing Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And Spider-Man Homecoming. So, on with the list. So without further ado, here's my list. We're going to start with number 6. Now, number 6, I will say I do like all the Spider-Man films, even though there are some better than others. So, number 6 is one that I don't particularly enjoy as much as the others. I think it's alright, it's not that great. It's basically just, because it's a reboot, it's restart, it's just doing everything again, but not as good as the original. So, number 6 is The Amazing Spider-Man, the 2012 reboot. Yeah, it's good, but well, I think it's alright. It's not. Okay, I'm probably the most optimistic person who's ever going to say this is good / bad or whatever. So even if I say it's bad, it's probably not going to be terrible unless it's a really, really, really terrible one in my eyes. I'm probably the least hateable. I'm probably the person who you would, well, what's the term? I don't really hate things. There are the odd exceptions, but not really. Just not so good. However, when it's love, it's got a bit big love, or this is really great. I would really enjoy this. And this is, you can see what I think there. It's alright. It's not anything special, really. I think the main problem is because they cut so much out, as there was stuff in the trailers about the mystery, Greatest Adventure, Ready to Play God. There was quite a lot cut. I don't know if they've got it on the well, they got deleted scenes, but I don't know if they've got all of that here. And so, yeah, I think it could have been a bit better and not so great. So, it's not brilliant. It's alright. I think the mystery they throw in is just a throw in, and it's not really a main part of this film. The next film maybe, but not this one. So yeah, it's basically a rehash of the first one, but with the new mystery and changes a couple of stuff. On the other hand, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2014 film, would steal parts of this film's plot and that of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Whoops. Of all the Spider-Man films you could steal the plot from, you steal the amazing ones. The amazing film ones, not necessarily the amazing film ones. No, these are the weaker ones. So, yeah, Amazing Spider-Man's my number 6. Number 5. Now, this one I think would be a lot of people's number 5 or number 6. More so 6, but if they hate Spider-Man 3 more than this one, then it would be 5. I don't usually see this one any higher than Amazing Spider-Man. But this one I actually enjoyed more than The Amazing Spider-Man, surprisingly. I thought it was more enjoyable. Granted, the story is not much better, but I liked it more than the first one, and it is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, this is not a perfect film. Again, it's like its predecessor. It's not the greatest on stories, and it's too cramped, a bit like Spider-Man 3, and there isn't exactly a reason why everyone's here. I mean, there's some... Okay, the Ryanair doesn't need to be there. And yeah, and the fact that he cancelled The Amazing Spider-Man 3 now means we won't see how that ends, and dropped it. What a pointless ending, because they didn't get the money they were hoping to get, or as much money as they were hoping, so they could do The Amazing Spider-Man 3 spin-offs and future sequels. So, showed them, so... Yeah, so the one good thing about that happening is that Marvel now co-owns the rights, and we got the Spider-Man Homecoming because of that, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, or you can go and watch the review. But this one, and this is more of promotion for the unmade future setups, some of which weren't even certain to be made before this one came out, and same spin-offs. So, oh, and there was a deleted scene that was rightly cut about Peter meeting his father. That's included on here. So, again, that was rightly cut. That's one good thing I'll give him that. And the romance, as I mentioned in my Homecoming review, the romance between Peter and Gwen is better than the romance in Homecoming, and also the ones in the Spider-Man trilogy, the Sam Raimi one. But to be honest, besides that, and maybe a bit more action in this one than the first one, there isn't really that much interesting. I just found it's more enjoyable than the first one. That's me personally. I'm not saying it's better, although I just find it's more enjoyable. It's probably worse in a story contextual. But yeah, that's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think I'm going to get a lot of hate for putting that not last, just second last. Okay, number 4. A lot more people are going to hate me for putting this one 4th instead of first or second, or even in the top 3. It is Spider-Man 2. Now, the reason I put this one number 4 is like why I put The Amazing Spider-Man 2 at 5, but the other way around. This one is considered the best one, whilst Amazing 2 is considered the worst one. But as I said with Amazing 2, I found that more enjoyable than Amazing 1. With this one, I find it less enjoyable than the first or the third in the Sam Raimi trilogy. I do, however, find the 2.1 version a slight improvement. There's a bit more of the train sequence. There's another confrontation scene at Peter's birthday party between him and Harry. There's a tad more extra just in. There isn't really much to add, but it's slightly better because there's just a little bit added in. It's, 8 minutes, apparently. And also, if you've got the 2007 Blu-ray, I think this is where they included the 2.1 version. I don't know if they've included it on later releases. But it's got the 136 minutes approximate. That's for the 2.1 version. It's actually 127 minutes for the cut version. So, a bit 8 minutes less. Close to 9, but they were rounding the time length for this 2.1 version up to 9. It's at 8 minutes rather than 9. Odd. Okay. I guess maybe they needed some extra time for the credits, but still, it's still an enjoyable film. I've got to rewatch this one, to be honest. I think this one, the 2.1. But actually, I don't know if you would say 2.1 counts as a rewatch. But I'd probably have to rewatch this, the 2.1 version, and Spider-Man 3. Again, I've rewatched all the others minus Homecoming. But I think this is a good film. I do like it. It's better than the Amazing ones. But to be honest, I don't think it's as good as the others. This is, and most people love this one. I see why. There's a lot of good stuff. Doc Ock is a great villain. Got some great action, romance. Is it slightly better in this one? Might be. Characters do develop and does have some great moments. But I probably won't say it's one of the best films of all time or best superheroes films of all time. It's a great film. And I'm glad it won the Oscar for the best effects. I think that's what happened. But, yeah. And also, this is the most expensive film at the time. Doesn't look that expensive. It looks pretty much on the same terms as Spider-Man 1. And 3 would be even more expensive when it came around to that. And probably also the new ones. This was even more expensive than Titanic, which I think I would believe more. But it won the Oscar, so... And Spider-Man 3, whilst this one was probably... This is the least amount of money given to us. Least grossing at the box office, at least before Amazing 2. But not Amazing 3. Raimi 3, Spider-Man 3 would probably help more than earn that money back. So... yeah. It's a good film. It's a really great film. But I wouldn't consider it one of the best ever. So yeah, Spider-Man 2. Great film, but not one of my personal favourites. I will just quickly apologise to my friend Ollie Pajak, Mr. Taz11, that this is his favourite. I apologise, but different opinions. He doesn't seem to enjoy the 2.1 version as much as the cut version. He doesn't think that it's really that much of a difference. So, again, different minds I think alike. Or differently in some cases. But, yes, Spider-Man 2 is still a great film. Number 3. What a coincidence, it's Spider-Man 3. It's the third one. And again, Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Amazing Spider-Man were worst ones, so 1 is worst, 2 is second worst, so coincidental. And there'll be another coincidental one a bit later on. In fact, quite a bit of coincidental. So, Spider-Man 3. Oh yeah, this is one of the two disc Blu-rays I've got at the time. Got this one and Amazing 1. This one is actually I just find this one more enjoyable than the second one, like Amazing 2 over Amazing 1. I just find it more enjoyable. Granted, there is a lot of stuff going on. I mean, the ones with the most characters doing a lot of stuff. So the most congested, the most stuff happening are the longer ones, surprisingly. I mean, this one's just about 139 minutes, roughly. Amazing 2 is 141. And yet, the shorter ones have less going on. So, it's great. Also, I just mentioned that this is Harry Thomas's favourite film, Harry Thomas Pictures. I'm actually kind of surprised about that, because this one, while Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets a lot more hate, and this one gets more mentioned when you're talking about a bad movie or bad sequel, and they usually reference Spider-Man 3, especially in terms of what they did with Venom. But personally, I think it's enjoyable. Okay, the Venom bit they could have improved, but that was due to the studio throwing him in. But he's alright for the bits he's in, but I admit he is thrown in just for it, but that's not the filmmaker's fault. One thing about my street is it's usually quiet, but there's so many bloody birds squawking. So yeah, Spider-Man 3, it's not as bad as some people think it is. In fact, there's some great moments, like the Sandman birth scene, that's pretty great. And you can't say the CG's bad. At least not for 2007. In fact, Spider-Man's 1 and 2 probably look more dated than this one because they're older, but still all were brilliant at the time. Brilliant CG. And yeah. it's an enjoyable film. It's better than the Amazing ones, okay? I just find it more enjoyable than Spider-Man 2, that's all. So, number 2 is the latest Spider-Man film, Spider-Man Homecoming, which is this. I've done more in-depth review already, so you can check that out, but so I say this was probably the most enjoyable and most entertaining of the Spider-Man films for at least since the original. And yeah, I think Tom Holland is, I think he's a mix of the two, of the previous two, more of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man than Andrew Garfield, but he's got kind of a mix of the two as well as bringing his own to the character, and he's really funny and enjoyable to watch. Oh, and my sister likes him because she thinks he's hot. The same for Andrew Garfield. She probably won't from Tobey Maguire, but she still might like him. Yeah, I've pretty much covered quite a lot in the review. I will say this. I'm really glad he's part of the MCU now, and now we can expand on him whilst he has adventures with the other Avengers. Like in this one, we've got Iron Man pop up, and there's a funny cameo from Captain America. So yeah, it's a great film. Yeah, I've already talked about it, so please go watch that. But I've actually put this as my second most anticipated movie of the year after Star Wars Episode 8, and yeah, it turned out to be a brilliant one. It's not top. I think it just is in the top 5 of the year, and it's the second best after Guardians of the Galaxy for the MCU films of the year. And maybe top 5 MCU films overall. I'm gonna have to deal with that list, so I can do the ranking later in the week. But suffice to say, this is a great film, and you should totally watch it. It's still in cinemas, so go watch it. And that brings us to number 1. Number 1 is, you've probably already guessed it by now, Spider-Man, the 2002 one. This is a brilliant film, really enjoyable. Okay, this first hour is a bit slow, but it's so you can introduce the character, you can see the journey progress, and then you get to see Peter Parker as Spider-Man, following his progression from being bitten by the spider to using his powers for his own needs, to his uncle's death, and to the catching a criminal for the first time, and becoming a hero. Yeah, and also I think Willem Dafoe is great as the Green Goblin. He's a bit camp, but these ones, the Sam Raimi trilogy, are trying to be more like the comic books. That's why he's quite camp. But it's also got a bit of horror into it, because Sam Raimi's a horror director. Especially in this film, it's got quite a bit of horror in it. And can be quite violent at times. Not terribly violent. It's a 12. Okay, fun fact, this was the film that kind of got the 12A rolling. If Batman was the one who got it for the 12, Spider-Man was the one who got it for 12A. The ones that get it rolling, although I think when Batman was released as a 12, but later got 15, say for Batman Returns from re-releases, this one came under as a 12, although some might have given it 12A, but it was because of this one that some people thought it should be a 12A, and whilst this one, I think, missed out, I think it did, maybe some other places did give it the 12A, but generally, it was a 12, and then from the Bourne Identity onwards, it was 12A. 12A's for the cinema, whilst 12 would go to DVD and video and Blu-ray. And it was some time after that they got the new certifications, well, saying the familiar ones that they got on DVD and Blu-ray that you've seen now. It's the 2002 ones. In the case of the 12 in 1989, it was cinema only until 1994 for some reason. I don't know why, but they didn't have 12 on video until 1994. I don't know. I just don't know probably why Batman and Batman Returns were 15s, and they just stuck at 15 even today. So yeah, that was it. Yeah, it's a brilliant film, and it's really enjoyable. I'm sure you'll like it. You might like number 2 more, but there is a lot of good stuff in here, and this is the origin story. This is where it all begins, at least with the Sam Raimi trilogy. But even the first half, where it's still about 50 minutes, an hour before you see Spider-Man, you've got a lot going on to set it up, and it doesn't feel boring. It just takes its time a lot. Unlike The Amazing Spider-Man, where it takes him about an hour to get to being Spider-Man, but there's a lot more stuff happening at the same time. I mean, it's literally within the first 5-10 minutes of this film starting, after the credits, because they take about 3 minutes. 3-4 minutes. After about 5-10 minutes after that, you can see him being bitten by the spider, whilst in Amazing it's probably more like 15-20. But suffice to say, this is a great film, really enjoyable, some great moments, and I really enjoyed everyone who was in it. And it's probably the one I've seen the most. I've seen it about 3 or 4 times, whilst the others I've seen all of them at least once. Spider-Man 2, if you count the 2.1 version, then twice, one version each. The 2 Amazings, I've seen the first one 3 times, although I didn't see the ending of it the first time, and the second one twice. And Homecoming I said what I've seen once, but when I get that on Blu-ray I'll see it again. So this one I've seen about 3 times, I think. Yeah, 3 times, and it's still a brilliant film. I think the ones you watch the most are probably the ones you enjoy more, because you find them so enjoyable you would rewatch them more than you would with the others. And I think that's a similar case with this one, and maybe a few other cases. I can't think of many at the moment, but this one certainly is the case. Yeah, so that's Spider-Man 2002. That was a great Tony the Tiger. Great. That's a great film, and yeah. Oh, and in this trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. That's positive clapping, because my goodness, he is brilliant in this role. It's so good that people wanted to come back for the MCU, and you know, he could be the Judi Dench M of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He could be playing the same character from an alternative universe featuring this character. So, but it wouldn't change anything from the previous ones. It wouldn't bring those ones into the continuity of the MCU, because like M in Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, the first 3 Daniel Craig Bond films, she was playing the same character as in the Pierce Brosnan ones, but from a separate universe. So she's been doing the job longer, she's known more agents. James Bond didn't start before her. She, in 1995, she was in charge when Bond went off to go do GoldenEye, but in 2006, he'd only just started because it's a new timeline. And so what I mean is that Judi Dench plays the same character she played before, but in an alternative timeline. So they kind of did stuff differently. So I say technically the same character. She's M. It might not be the exact same, but there are 2 similar versions of M played by Judi Dench. You've got the Pierce Brosnan era one and the Daniel Craig era one. And as they're both set in separate timelines, then it doesn't really, because her in the Daniel Craig ones doesn't really affect the Pierce Brosnan ones, and vice versa, because this is a different timeline. If they were in the same timeline, it's just carrying on from previously, but as they rebooted the timeline, they just kept her, and it works. It works having these 2 M's played by the same actress, who pretty much are the same character, but in a different universe. So pretty much this could be the same for J. Jonah Jameson if they brought him into the MCU. And they had J.K. Simmons to reprise the role, he would just be... he would be J. Jonah Jameson, but he wouldn't be the one from the Sam Raimi ones. He'd be a new JJJ. It's just easier saying that. He'd be a new JJJ, but played by the same actor from the Sam Raimi trilogy. So they're two different universe versions of him. And I'd like to think that when I see that clip in that scene in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Peter is sending an email to J. Jonah Jameson and he replies with "No!" I like to hear J.K. Simmons' portrayal say that in my head. So it'd be nice to see him in the film, in the new series. We'll have seen how that would turns out if they did. So, yes, that's a great film, the first one. So I'll quickly go through the list again. Oh, damn. Oh well. Okay, number 6, The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 5, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Number 4, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, Spider-Man 3. Number 2, Spider-Man Homecoming. And number 1, Spider-Man. And as for Spider-Man 2.1, well, I would put 2.1 slightly above 2, so probably between, I'd probably say 3.5 or 3.1 if you insist. As for Civil War, well, when we commented on Ollie's one, I said it'd be between 3 and 2. I'd probably stand by that. Actually, I don't think it's as good as Spider-Man 2.1, so there you go. Civil War would go between 2.1 and 2, the theatrical cut. So let's say 2.1 is position 3.1, so number 3.1. Civil War would be 3.5, because that's halfway between 3 and 4. But this is the 2.1, so I say 3.1 for this position, and then 3 would be third place. So yeah, I think Spider-Man 2.1 is slightly better than the theatrical cut. Around a similar level of Spider-Man 3, for goodness. And I think it's a little bit better, and I like it a bit more than Captain America Civil War, but I think the theatrical cut is just good. It's a pretty good film, but I prefer this extended one. There are some scenes that do feel like, yeah, they were rightly cut from the other ones, but there are other scenes that you feel, yeah, these could have been kept. There isn't really a middle ground one. But still, they're still pretty great films. So, thank you for watching this ranking. I'll see you next time for the MCU ranking. Goodbye. Released within a few minutes ago. So, without further ado, I'll just go. So, no, it's too late to do it in order now. I've just gone through. So, without further ado, is the list of the Spidey. Excuse me. Will you shut up? Shut up! Stupid birds. God. One thing about my street is it's usually quiet. Okay. I'll be back in a few minutes. In fact, the older one. I'm sorry. And will you stop bloody burping, you bastard.